Welcome to the Fintech Diversity Radar's Female Founders Series by Findexible. My name's Linda Say, and I'm your host for today. In this series, we're talking to fascinating leaders in fintech around the world about the issues of gender diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what it takes for women in particular to thrive and be successful. I think we all kind of know by now that this is a tough landscape for women. And so I have the distinct pleasure and honor of speaking with Charlotte Ronje, who's the co-founder and CEO of Jamii.one, which is based in Copenhagen, Denmark. And that's such a really interesting region of the world. I've been kind of watching the Netherlands and that region do some really incredible things with fintech. And Charlotte, I just want to say that I've been watching from afar your company, and I'm a fan of the work you're doing, because anyone that focuses on the SDGs and making this world a better place for all is someone I want to meet. So thank you. And thanks for staying past your work hours and, all the family life stuff to talk to me today. So welcome.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me about Jamii.one and what's the idea behind it and what problems does it solve?
Sure. So Jamii.one is actually a word that we borrowed from Swahili, meaning community. Jamii means community. And that's because we worked with the communities across the world in which you find a lot of people that are un or underbanked. So they don't have access to financial services. This is basically locking every second adult in the world in poverty. And wow. That's what we work with.
That's amazing. I saw on your website that it means community in Swahili, and I love that, because especially I think if there's one thing we've learned right now during this pandemic is that community is everything. So that to me was so special, and really just so important, to help the underbanked now more than ever too. So is Jamii.one targeted solely for underserved women, or is it just for everybody? Tell me a little bit about that.
So the way we approached this is that we looked into so-called community finance groups. So these are groups of people that come together to save up together or to create a kind of insurance, also by saving up together, and maybe even provide each other with loans. Oh, yeah. So essentially helping each other to have financial services as a community. And a lot of these community groups that we work with are primarily women driven. So in the groups that we have about above 85% women in those groups.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And I love that. And I saw that I think you just reached a milestone of 10,000 users. Is that right?
We did, and meanwhile it turned to 12, so we're really ecstatic.
That's exciting, and I mean that's in a short amount of time, right?
Yeah, it's just our scheduling time, and then that happened. So it's really progressing now, and we're happy to see that.
So is it for underserved around the world, or what regions are you really focusing the most on?
Yeah, that's a good question. So essentially, also you mentioned that we're based out of Copenhagen, and that's so true. We also do have a founding partner for Ethiopia. Her name is Tegist, and she's lived and educated and has a whole work career behind her in Ethiopia, because that's where we are operational out of. Now, that being said, before we started to build the technology, we went to 4 African countries: Ghana, Uganda, Kenya, and then Ethiopia, to do research, to understand whether and how these community finance groups are replicable or the same, are similar across different countries, so that if we made technology, would that be able to service people on a global scale? And our findings were that, yes, this is very much similar things that are happening. So if we create this system, it should be able to scale across nations. And what we're seeing on our platform as well is that right now we have groups using our app in 24 countries, and we never did any online marketing for it. So there is some kind of need, definitely, across the world.
Oh my gosh, Charlotte, no marketing at all.
Not yet. We're just getting ready to do it. I mean, a lot of our users, and especially the first segment that our technology was able to serve, are very low income, and many of those do not have smartphones. So they're
Right.
not active on social media. And for that reason, it didn't make a lot of sense to do online marketing.
Right.
Yeah.
That
But
makes, but is it word of mouth then? Is that how this is? So it's just kind of a grassroots kind of thing? Is that what you're discovering?
I think so. And I also think that it's just, there will always be those people that have such a high need for your technology or for your solution that, they really go and seek you out. And,
Right.
and those are the ones that we've encountered so far. And now we will reach more. And also, as our platform has evolved and become more flexible, we're now able to cater into groups that are also used by people that are not that low income. It's referred to as destitute, almost the level we started with, and then we move up. So
Right.
so in this respect, it will make sense to do this marketing. And then from there on, it's like a lot of platforms that if you use it together with one set of friends or people, that it makes sense for you to use the same technology with your other friends. And then we have sort of the opportunity for word of mouth or organic growth.
So tell me a little bit about what inspired you to go out and start your own company, and then especially one focused on SDG.
Sure. Yeah, it's a quite personal story, and it goes back a long ways. Actually, my mom was able to dig out a drawing that I made when I was 10. And I remember this because this is when I learned about war. And I knew that I needed to do something about that. And I made on that drawing a pledge to myself where I wrote, to all the children of the world, I know you're suffering. I want to do something, and not just something small. And then I bought, but what, in parentheses.
Right.
So how do you do something that is not just small? And I will say that throughout my studies, I've been from journalism over to the NGO sector, studied that and worked with that, and moved over to sort of international business and politics side, worked in East Africa, worked with microfinance and studied microfinance, and in the end becoming a consultant with PwC, because I also figured I needed to build some sort of ground skills, right, and before doing this. Yeah.
Right.
And throughout, what I saw is that essentially it all boils down to poverty. If we have poverty and we feel insecure, then we need a reason or somehow to get what we need to survive, and then we'll point out an enemy.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, in the end, have much to do with religion when you really dig down to it, at least not usually. So if we want to end war and if we want to end poverty, it's actually basically the same thing. And when we look at that, and when we look up the data that really supports how we fight that, it's about being able to own something and to invest in that. And
Yeah.
ownership comes with protection from the government, of course, so I can't really help much there. And
Right.
but we can do something when it comes to being able to grow what you already have, whether that is a field where you're growing something, or a small shop that you started, or a small production of some sort, right? And this
Yeah.
is where I find it very sad that every second adult in the world lacks access to financial services, such as a small loan to grow their business or whatever that can be.
Yeah.
Also insurance, health insurance, life insurance, and this.
Tell me about some of the obstacles you face. I mean, we all know that female founders are seriously underfunded. Many have no choice but to bootstrap. But tell me a little bit about that, like how you got started. What were those obstacles for you?
Yeah, and I definitely agree. And I agree that that's something that I personally, with the experience I have now, also want to contribute to making it possible for more women. I'm, you can say, born out of a family of entrepreneurs. So in that sense, it was quite close to me. My brother and all of his friends are actually all or most of them entrepreneurs, and encouraging one another. And that a little bit inspired me to say, okay, if they can do it, then maybe so can I. So I think
Yeah.
there is that so can I, and you still need I think role models. And I was just in my near vicinity, sort of, I didn't have a lot of female founding partners or role models, but I did have one friend, and I reached out to her and she was super awesome. And she said, so what is it that you want to do and why can't you do it? And I wrote down, because I need this, this, and this. And so she's like, so who can help you with this? Who can help you with that? And made me write with each problem, who can help me with that? And then she said, so what do you need? Why are you not getting started? You're getting started tomorrow.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, to me, it's always astonishing to see women that don't have those kind of mentors, in their life. And I'm guilty of that too. But it's so important to have those kinds of mentors, that can kind of take your hand and guide you through that landscape, and with so few women that have done it, it's just really important, to find that link, I think. So I'm glad you found that. And I love that she's like, let's get started, That's great. But I think I saw that Jamie.one was part of the Copenhagen incubator program. Is that right?
exactly. So back to the family of entrepreneurs, my partner, he's also an entrepreneur and was sitting in the Copenhagen Fintech and introduced me there, because what I wanted to do was in this field, and that became also then a starting place for me. There were a lot of we got accepted to the accelerator, and that really helped us go from complete not knowing anything to start and making things more specific, and for me to grow the team, which was really what a lot of things didn't fly from the beginning, but the team part did. And I believe that's also what the mentors there recognized that we were doing right.
When it came to seed round and funding and things like that, were you able then to obtain the capital that way? And do you attribute some of that to the lab itself?
I would say that, to be completely honest, when it comes to funding, it started with bootstrapping, and that bootstrapping, I hadn't saved up for that, at least not enough. So
Right.
yeah, who has, right? I had children, I had a house, and
Yeah.
so not at that point. So actually, my brother loaned me some money, and I
Awesome.
hope to return the favor someday to other women that may not have a brother who can help them with a loan.
Yeah.
Um, so that goes back to how important it is to have access to a loan sometimes, right? Um, yeah, so that's how it started for me, in order to finance just my everyday and bootstrapping. From there, I think that the people I had in my team also had a good connections, and that helped us to do sort of the angels investments. But
Yeah.
since then, and with the seed, to be quite honest, it's been really, really difficult. And if it hadn't been for soft money in Denmark, maybe we wouldn't have survived.
I hear that a lot, and that's, it's tough. And I admire any female entrepreneurs who stick it out and continue on. So, you're not alone, I guess I'm trying to say. If you had any advice for female founders, on getting started and obtaining capital, what would that advice be for them?
Mm. I think two different things. One, getting started. You don't need funding for that. You need an idea, and you need people around you, whether that is a team, which I would really strongly advise, and especially a founding team. Don't do it alone.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the one thing, right? And like my mentor, write down all the things that are holding you back, and then start eliminating them and get started. And if you're you're thinking, maybe I could do this, but should I? Then the answer is yes, you should.
Yeah.
It's a responsibility on your shoulders. That's at least what I felt. If I feel that I might have the capacity to do this, I need to do this in order to show other women that they can do this, right? So we
Right.
all have this responsibility right now. Now,
Yes.
when it comes to funding, we've been more successful with, we have both male and female, but in the beginning and in the overall, if you measure it, we have been more successful with women investors.
Wow, that's interesting.
So that could be one tip that people could go to. And at the same time, also another responsibility that if you made some money during your career or somehow else, that if you have that money as a woman, start investing. You are
Yeah,
just as clever and just as right to be an investor and as so many other investors out in the market. So you
yeah,
should definitely just get in the game, because when I get up on the stage, you don't have to be confused by, maybe some of the wording or, my emotion or anything, because you will may just recognize that and can look past that and see, just see my idea and see my results for what they are.
right.
So I think you have the upper hand as a woman, and you should just get started as an investor. Or if you're thinking of having a career in a VC and a venture capital fund as a woman, please do so.
Yeah,
Um, this is really moving. It's moving things that we are seeing more and more women.
yep,
And I think just in the 3 years we've been, 2.5 years, we've been active, so much has actually happened, at least in Denmark.
yeah. I think you're right. And I do see a trend, in women getting more involved with angel, funds and investing and all of that. So I'm super encouraged by that. And I think that was really good advice. Um, so what kind of gender issues do you feel played a part in your challenges, or did they at all? Because you have a male co-founder, is that right?
Yeah.
So do you think that it helped to have a male co-founder as you're getting started? Tell me a little bit about that.
I definitely think it does, and to some extent, I also think that it should, because I do really believe generally in diversity in the team.
When I'm talking to fintech startups and consulting a little bit on diversity and inclusion strategies, I always tell them, you need 50-50. You need both, because some female founders will want to go the opposite extreme and say, I'm just going to hire women. And I have to say, no, you need both,
Exactly. You're still gonna want that, yeah,
Yeah,
the dynamic of it. It's not.
right,
We come from a century of men for historical reasons. That's how it was previously. We
right.
shouldn't go to a century of women. It should be a century of both, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Now is the time for balance. If anything, I think that's what the world is trying to show us. We need balance now.
Balance in everything, right? And
Balance in
um,
everything.
especially in business, because that's what's going to make your organization more innovative and more profitable too.
I
So really,
mean, and we needed, I mean, I'm not myself an unbanked person, and I'm not coming from Ethiopia. So, of course, we also needed someone who knew the context more closely. And as I said, we have an Ethiopian founding partner, and she's been with us from the beginning. And there's no way we could have done what we've done without her in the team, also, right?
yeah,
And again, she's bringing another perspective, another way of attacking the problem, another way of delivering results. And that was all very much needed for us to succeed. So again, it's back to the diversity, and also a diversity that reflects maybe your segment or
right.
the people that you're trying to serve.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I love that, because if you look at your executive leadership team, right, you've got 2-to-1 women to men, it looks like. And you also have 50% women to men on your team. And I love that. When I checked that out and was doing a little bit of homework, it's like, oh my gosh, she so gets it, because you're right there at 50-50. So that's amazing. That's really awesome.
It really does provide a lot of energy, and I really do hope that we can continue this diversity in so many things, right? Not just in gender, also in
Right.
age and where you come from and how you think, and
Yes.
yeah. And then sometimes it's good to have a common denominator, something about you that's similar. And one
Right.
of the things is that the people in my team are actually very community driven. So all of our senior profiles are trainers for children volunteering with sports. and I think that wasn't something we recruited for. It's a coincidence, but it also says that there is sort of a common denominator amongst
Right.
them. Right?
Yeah, and I think especially when your work is purpose driven,
Mm.
that kind of attracts like-mindedness, whether it's men, women, white, brown, black people, whatever the background is. So I think, it's all about that mission. And that really, I think, makes for a really special group of people working together.
Yeah.
Tell me what's next for Jamii.one and for you personally.
Well, what's next for Gemmy One is definitely actually today the last of the loans that were provided based on Jamii data were repaid with a 99.99% repayment rate.
Gosh, that's unbelievable, Charlotte. That's really awesome.
Yes, there's a small communication error, so a little bit, one fee was not repaid, and we have things to learn here, of course. But I think the women proved what we're saying and what we're trying to show, that they're more than worthy of having access to these financial services. And so what's next for us is scaling. Essentially, our distribution channel is one through actually NGOs that are working with these communities. And just one NGO may have 30,000 people organized in these type of communities in one country. And we're right now collaborating with more than 20 international NGOs in Ethiopia. So just one of these clients can really help us scale immensely. So 12,000. I'm hoping that that's a drop in the water in terms of the projects that we're right now preparing for, on the one hand. So in terms of user scaling, and then in terms of financial services, we proved that the data is solid, that these women deserve access to financial services, and now we need to scale that. And actually, before the last repayment, the financial institution already came to us to say, we want to scale to service all of your users.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's already in the making. It's already being drawn out, and looking also into other financial services, as we were mentioning about insurance, life insurance, health insurance. And so you get that stability in your life, that there is this safety net on top of the community that you're already part of.
Right.
So scaling and growing what we're doing in Ethiopia, where we go really deep, help the banks go deeper in terms of whom they are serving.
Right.
And then at the same time, with now we have a new website at Jamii.one. And so that's ready for online marketing. And so now moving into online marketing as well.
Yes, that is so exciting. I'm really happy for you, and I can't wait to watch even more and see where it goes. So that's awesome. Charlotte, it has been a pleasure chatting with you today, and I want to thank you for being with me. I want to thank our audience for listening in and watching this episode of the Fintech Diversity Radar's Female Founder Series. The Fintech Diversity Radar is building the world's first data set on diversity in fintech on a global basis. And here's how you can help bridge the gender divide. If you're a fintech or a financial service provider, please take the survey. You can find it on Findexable.com. It's anonymous, it's quick, but the radar is only as good as the data that's going in. So we need everybody to contribute and take part. Follow us on Findexable social media platforms and be a part of the conversation. There's some incredible conversations going on, and we want you to be part of that. Subscribe to Findexable's YouTube channel. And if you want more information, absolutely, please reach out at info@findexable.com. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.